Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Lisa McLean, and I am the Legislative and Policy Manager for at the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council. And I have a small presentation. Let me see here. There. Our agenda today is to, well, number one, do some welcomes and then introduce the topic of which we're going to discuss today. Then we want to dive into the ideas that we have for making changes to our rules. And then we'll take public comments and get any feedback, answer any questions. Equally, any comments can also be sent to rulemaking@efsec.wa.gov, if that's useful. And then at the end, we'll just wrap up with clarifying exactly what the next steps are involved in this process. Okay. This workshop we noticed this workshop on December 8th, 2025, and it's being held on only on Microsoft Teams. It's being recorded, so I hope that's okay with everybody. This will be useful to help us with the record and looking back, and especially if some really good ideas come up, we might want to jot down some of those ideas. So thank you very much. And then we ask that you stay muted throughout this workshop until called upon. And for those wishing to comment today, please raise your hand and unmute when you're called upon. To assist in preparing the record for this public workshop, it'd be really helpful if you could provide those who want to comment to state your name and provide your affiliation. And then again, just emphasizing again that if you want to make written comments, you're welcome to do so by emailing us at rulemaking@efsec.wa.gov, and those will be included in the formal record. Now, I think I have everything from this page. Oh, I also would say is that we have left the chat function open more for technical problems. Please don't, we're not gonna be able to capture what's in the chat. So again, encourage you to not discuss things that we're discussing right now in the chat. Rather, raise your hand, speak to us here, or send us an email at rulemaking@efsec.wa.gov, and not in the chat function. Okay, thanks. So the purpose of this meeting is limited to the proposal that we made regarding rulemaking. In particular, as I note here, we are at the announcement phase. We filed on November 5th, 2021. We filed a pre-proposal statement of inquiry. And so we're here today to tell you what we're thinking about doing and then get your feedback in the event that you have any or get some ideas. If you want to think about it and send us some comments later, that'd be great and fine too. We noticed we filed this CR 101. It was published in the Washington State Register as WSR 25-22-105. And in it, we indicated that we plan to propose amendments to these three chapters that I have here to the Washington Administrative Code, to Chapter 463-30, to Chapter 463-60, and Chapter 463-70. These are the title 463 is the EFSEC list of EFSEC rules, and in the Washington Administrative Code. So that's what we're trying to change. The changes that we will propose will be offered pursuant to RCW 8050-040, which enumerates the powers of EFSEC to be, among others, quote, to adopt, promulgate, amend, or rescind suitable rules and regulations pursuant to Chapter 34.05 RCW to carry out the provisions of this chapter. So that's what we're doing. My name, as I said, is Lisa McLean. I'm the EFSEC's Legislative and Policy Manager. In addition, we should have here our Director of Citing and Compliance, Amy Hofkemeyer, who, in the event that you ask me some difficult technical questions, I can refer to. She's here so that I can call a friend. Equally here is our Assistant Attorney General, John Thompson. Also relevant is our Catherine Taliaferro, our records manager, who's going to be involved in especially the changes to the adjudicative proceedings chapter. So with that, I'd like to move on to explain to you why we decided to open up these chapters and what are we looking to change inside these chapters from our perspective. Again, welcome any perspectives that you all have if they're different. Mhm. Okay. So first, chapter 463-30 of the Washington Administrative Code is related to adjudicative proceedings. For a long time now, we have wanted to open and amend this chapter. The basic framework of this chapter has not been amended since 2004. And obviously, there have been a lot of advances in technological, governmental, and EFSEC processes that need to be reflected in this WAC. Also, EFSEC's relationship with the Office of Administrative Hearings has evolved over time as we've done more adjudications. So in this vein, we hope to introduce greater clarity about what the role of the administrative law judge is vis-a-vis the counsel in an adjudication. We also hope to clarify how parties to an adjudication can present evidence and argument and on what schedule and what topics. And then finally, we were looking at the last three rules in that chapter. That's WAC 463-30-320, WAC 463-30-335, and 463-30-345, which we think should be moved to a new chapter that's solely focused on the recommendations of the governor, or maybe incorporated into chapter 463-64, which is regarding the issuance of the site certification agreement and which discusses the recommendation to the governor. So we've just, I think the recommendation to the governor has become kind of a separate part of the adjudicative order. It becomes an adjudicative order is appended to the recommendation of the governor. So we thought maybe we'd call that out. So that's what that one is. Moving on to applications for site certification. Chapter 463-60 of the Washington Administrative Code. As many of you are aware, EFSEC is strongly encouraging pre-application as a way to ensure that applications are as complete as possible when they are originally submitted to EFSEC. We firmly believe that pre-application discussions can provide a solid foundation for a smoother review process for project applications. Therefore, we propose to open up this chapter and to provide some additional detail and clarity about the pre-application, what pre-application entails, and how it can benefit the application process. That's what we have there. And then last, we're talking about opening up chapter 463-672 of the Washington Administrative Code, which is about site preservation, restoration and preservation. Again, this chapter has not had any substantial revisions since it was first created in 2004, 22 years ago. And if any one of you has read any of the recent site certification agreements that have been signed by the governor, you'll notice that they have more detail and sometimes they use a different terminology than that which is currently in the chapter that is here. So we plan to update the rules to be more consistent with what is currently the language that's being used in the site certification agreement. So with that, I want to say that we're at the public comment section. I want to emphasize that we're at the drafting stage right now. Okay, we have not proposed any changes. Okay, we wanted to hold this meeting as a precursor to let you know what we're planning to to do. We want your feedback. If you have any ideas, then we can basically incorporate that into the process where we're gonna, after this meeting, we're gonna start to write the actual changes and file the CR 102. So you will have another chance to actually look at the concrete changes that we are suggesting and say, well, I like that, I don't like that, and make comments on that, and we'll have a public hearing because of that, on that. But right now, it's really just to be transparent and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about. And we are talking about these chapters. We're not talking about any other chapters in this meeting. If you do have some concerns about other rules and want to comment about that, you're always welcome to send an email to rulemaking@efsec.wa.gov. And obviously, as per the Administrative Procedures Act, should we get a petition to amend a rule, we would need to consider it. So I'd like to open the floor to any questions, comments, or anything that anybody has based on this. I see that Dawn has a question. Hi, Dawn. Dawn
Hi.
Gregoire.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So a couple of questions, and I don't want to tie things up here, but on the first one, on the adjudicative hearings, you mentioned the 46330, chapters 320, 335, 345 being moved. I mean, I understand the what, but I guess I don't understand the why on that one. What's the background behind that?
So I will attempt to answer that, but also welcome any additional comments, additions that Amy Hofkemeyer or John Thompson may want to make after I finish. Basically, what we're saying is that the way that the chapter was written, the adjudication was sort of back in 2004. Everything that happened there was the bulk of what was sent to the recommendation, what was sent to the governor, right? And that's not the case now. We have a lot of other pieces that go to the governor as part of the recommendation. We also have a cover report, that's quite lengthy and discusses the whole process that's been gone through. So we really think that there's a need to call that out as a separate thing. And I guess we'll speak to it in terms of tribal consultations. That's we do tribal consultations separate apart from any adjudication, right? And that is, that's kind of that part of the thing that we'll tell that story to the governor when it's part of the recommendation to the governor, right? And so that's why we think we need to call that out. I'm not sure. John, Amy, do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, I could jump in. I think yeah, I would just add to that I think it's just the idea is to um, amend the rules to reflect what the practice has been over the last couple decades for um, the way that the council um, has had a separate adjudicative order from the report and recommendation to the governor, whereas in the past, I think those two documents were sort of conflated. Um, so um, the notion is that the recommendation report considers, the SEPA analysis, the adjudicative order, the tribal consultation, and public comments, and all of those things sort of go into the into the council's deliberations and then development of a recommendation to the governor. So it just didn't seem quite accurate given the current practice to have that report being and that recommendation being included in the adjudication chapter, which is just sort of like one of the inputs to the council's recommendation.
Okay, so this is simply just more like an administrative cleanup where it makes things flow smoother, I guess.
Yeah, and I
Amy?
just to sort of add on, I think we want to it also more explicitly, I think as John said, like this has been our practice for the last several years, but it does make more explicit that we can, you know, really complete some of these internal process milestones in the application review on the path to that recommendation package to the governor, without, hanging us up somewhere because we can't finish this recommendation until, or this adjudicative order until these other things are done. That process, that adjudicative order really is, sort of the culmination of the adjudication, and being able to administratively conclude that step on the pathway to developing the recommendation is, just, I think, a little bit easier to definitively outline.
Okay, I appreciate it. I have more questions, but I'll defer to others for right now. I think Teresa.
Yeah. Teresa Howell.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks. This is very helpful for us. So my question was actually on the application for site certification and possible rule change there. Do you anticipate that there would be changes to the pre-application rules in terms of any new requirements for applicants? Is that part of what's being considered?
The answer, again, I'll invite John and Amy to help me out here, but no, we don't. It's not new requirements. Basically, we have processes right now that are not sort of documented in rule, and the idea is to document in rule in order to to make it so people can understand that better. Really, it's about clarity, right? Amy, John, anything to add there?
Yeah, so one of the things is the rules as they are now do talk about, and this is, I think part of what we hope to do. There's confusion about the requirements for pre-application for transmission facilities and pre-application for generating facilities. And it's just, the language right now is very confusing, and we get a lot of questions where people aren't clear about what applies to which type of facility. And so I think at least part of the goal is to provide clarity and provide understanding so that people who are, developing an application or, looking to develop a facility or transmission line understand which guidance on which section of the WAC may apply to the type of facility that they're looking to develop. So that, I think, is certainly part of it, but that's a clarification rather than a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, done. It looks like there's nobody else in the queue, so please go ahead.
Okay. Just a point of clarification, in the changes proposed for 46372, I just want to make sure there's no impacts on existing SCAs with this added detail or intended added content to align with current SCAs. So just there's no desire to go back and impose any new requirements on existing holders of SCAs, correct?
I think I would say correct, but I definitely want John to weigh in here. John Thompson to confirm that.
Right. I think that's correct. There's the pre-application is that specifically what the question
We're
is
talking
about?
about site restoration,
Site restoration.
restoration and preservation. There's already right now when it was created in 2004, it says from here forward. This applies to SCAs from here forward.
Right. Yeah, I mean, thinking specifically about CGS, for example, there's a history of orders and council decisions about restoration of that site. And I think, I don't think that the idea is to disturb any of that history.
Oh, okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Carol Black. Carol Black, did you want to ask a question or make a comment?
I was trying to figure out on Teams I'm a member of the general public. I'm Carol Black. So I'm very naive to the process, and so my questions may be something that don't make sense. So I apologize.
No.
So this is regarding 46360. So trying to track what may be going on in our area, what my question for the group would be as you work through this process is, would you consider adding pre-application review information to the website for public transparency? Because currently the only time the public is aware that you're working with an entity that would be proposing a particular project is after the formal application has been made. So for transparency, once you start working with a pre-application, it would be nice for the public to be notified. So that's question number one.
Thank you. I think I'd defer to Amy on that. Ms. Hafkemeyer?
Sure. I mean, certainly we can put it on the list of things to take a look at. I will say that I think challenges that we face with that right now include concerns about when things are still in development, they tend to be very nebulous. And so while we want to, continually work towards improving transparency and clarity and notifying people when things are going on in their area, we don't want to do things that create like confusion or uncertainty. And so I think, one of the things that's under consideration, just as part of current practice is what are things that can be announced that people want to know about that are something that is certain enough to be able to even say anything about. So, I think we are making notes of everything that we're taking in here and can take a look at how we might accomplish some of those things. But just to give you some information on one of the challenges we currently face with making pre-application things publicly available, that is certainly part of it.
All right. My second question, again, the public sometimes is really taken aback once things are moving forward and they don't feel like they've got a chance until, you're basically pushed to the end, and then they've got a very short comment period to catch up. So I think one of the other things I would ask you to consider is during your pre-application process, because I know this does happen after the formal application, but during the pre-application process, having EFSEC representatives meet with individuals, property owners, what have you, in the impacted area to help identify some fatal flaws. And again, in rural Eastern Washington, I think we have different quality of life issues and things like that aren't necessarily the same as people that live in urban areas. So I would request some informal meetings during the pre-application process.
We can make a note of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for both of those comments. And we're making a note of that. And this is exactly the type of thing that we'd like to, why we're holding this is as we go into the drafting stage, what our some of the concerns that the population has out there, either a developer or the public in general. So thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Black, you still have your hand up. Do you have any more or no? Okay. Okay, good. Any other comments, questions? I am thinking of moving to concluding this meeting. What I might do is go to my last slide to, let me see what this is. So yeah, according to chapter 3405, our next step, as I said, is to file the CR 102. And that will include the actual language and proposals, okay? And we are required to hold a public hearing after 20 days, more than, I think it's more than 20 days or 30 days after we publish them in the Washington State Register. So we're still, we're right now again at the drafting stage. In an ideal world, we might be filing actual language in the springtime. And then like 30 days after that actually gets published in the register, we would hold a hearing, okay? But all of this is going to be on our website. It's all going to be noticed to anybody who has a subscription to the website. So keep it, if you don't, I suggest that you sign up for that, right? And again, anytime you want to ask a question, rulemaking at efsec.wa.gov, that gets to me. And it's the best way to, narrow down and make your comments about rules and to focus my attention on that and on that topic. Okay. So next step is the CR 102 with actual language in it, where you will get to make all comments that you would like to make on that as well. So any other questions? In the absence of no other questions, I am going to adjourn this meeting and thank everybody for coming and hope that this has been helpful to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.